How could we have been so wrong about the old woman we all wanted gone? I remember the first day I saw Mrs. Chen. It was a gray October morning, and I was carrying my third box of books up the stairs to my new apartment when I noticed her standing in the hallway. She was tiny, maybe 4'10", with silver hair pulled back in a loose bun. She wore pink house slippers with cartoon rabbits on them and carried 2 crinkled dollar store bags that looked like they'd been used 100 times. Her face was deeply lined, the kind of weathered beauty that comes from 8 decades of living, but her eyes seemed distant, unfocused. "Hello," I said, trying to be friendly to my new neighbor. She looked at me with what I interpreted as confusion, nodded slightly, and shuffled past without a word. I didn't think much of it then. Moving day exhaustion has a way of making you less curious about the people around. Over the next few weeks, I started to notice Mrs. Chen more and more, and not always in positive ways. She'd appear in the hallway at odd hours, always with those same worn bags, sometimes talking to herself in what I assumed was Mandarin or Cantonese. I couldn't tell the difference. She'd stand in front of the mailboxes for what seemed like forever, squinting at the numbers, occasionally opening the wrong box before shuffling to another one. The other residents had clearly formed their opinions about her long before I arrived. Jennifer from apartment 3B was the first to really spell out for me. We were both doing laundry one evening when Mrs. Chen came in, looked at the machines with apparent bewilderment, and left without doing anything. "That's Mrs. Chen," Jennifer said, her voice dripping with that particular tone people use when they're about to gossip but want to seem concerned. "She's been here about 2 years. Barely speaks any English. It's really sad, but also, she's been here 2 years, you know? At some point, you have to try." I made a non-committal sound, folding my shirts. "I'm not being mean," Jennifer continued, apparently feeling the need to justify herself. "It's just hard when someone won't even try to adapt. My grandmother came from Poland, and she learned English in 6 months. 6 months, and she was 70. I'd hear variations of this conversation over and over in the following months. At the grocery store on the corner, I watched Mrs. Chun stand in front of the canned goods section for nearly 10 minutes, picking up different cans, squinting at the labels, putting them back. The store clerk, a college kid named Brandon, eventually approached her. "Can I help you find something?" he said, speaking so slowly and loudly that people 3 aisles overturned to look. Mrs. Chun just stared at him, clutching her dollar store bag. Brandon repeated himself even louder. "What are you looking for?" She mumbled something in Chinese and pointed vaguely at the shelves. Brandon sighed dramatically and grabbed a random can of soup, practically pressing it into her hands. She nodded, took it, and shuffled toward the register. I happened to be behind her in line and noticed it was cream of celery soup I'd seen inside her cart earlier. She was making a stir-fry. The soup made no sense with her other ingredients. Behind me, a teenager with headphones around his neck muttered to his friend, "God, just learn English already. This is America." His friend laughed. Mrs. Chun gave no indication she'd heard, but I saw her shoulders hunch forward just slightly as she counted out exact change with trembling fingers. I felt bad for her. We all did at first. That was the thing about Mrs. Chun. She inspired pity before she inspired anything else. The building manager, Tom, a perpetually stressed man in his 50s who always smelled like coffee and cigarettes, would shake his head whenever her name came up. "I try to be understanding," he told me once when I was dropping off my rent check. "I really do. My own mother is getting up there in age. But Mrs. Chun, she doesn't follow any of the building rules. She puts her trash out on the wrong days. She leaves bags in the hallway. Last month, she tried to pay her rent with a check written entirely in Chinese characters. Chinese characters? How am I supposed to deposit that? Does she have family?" I asked. "A grandson, Kevin. He comes by on Sundays, but honestly, he seems just as frustrated with her as everyone else." I started noticing Kevin's Sunday visits after that conversation. He was in his late 20s, always dressed in business casual clothes like he was coming from or going to something important. He had the perpetually tired look of someone juggling too many responsibilities. I could hear him through the walls of my apartment, which shared a side with Mrs. Chen's. "Grandma, you can't do this. You have to put the trash out on Tuesday and Friday. Tuesday and Friday. Not whenever you feel like it." His voice would rise with exasperation. "I wrote it down for you in Chinese. I put on your refrigerator. Why is this so hard?" I couldn't hear her responses, just low murmurs. "This is America now, Grandma. You can't just pretend you don't understand everything. You've been here 2 years. 2 years. You need to try harder. People are complaining about you. Do you understand? They're complaining. They think there's something wrong with you." One Sunday, I ran into Kevin in the hallway as he was leaving. He looked particularly drained, rubbing his eyes under his glasses. "Rough visit?" I asked, immediately regretting the intrusion. He laughed bitterly. Is it that obvious? Sorry if we were loud. My grandmother, she's a brilliant woman, actually. Or she was. I don't know anymore. She used to be a professor in China. Engineering. Can you believe that? Now she can't even figure out which day to take out the trash. That must be hard for both of you. The hardest part is that I think she could adapt if she wanted to. I really do. But it's like she's just given up. She won't try to speak English, won't try to make friends, won't try to do anything but shuffle around looking confused. My parents wanted to bring her here to give her a better life, and instead she's just fading away. He left, and I stood in the hallway thinking about what he'd said. A professor of engineering, reduced to confusion over trash days and soup cans. It was depressing in a way that felt too big to fully process. But pity has a shelf life, I learned. After a few months, the building's sympathy for Mrs. Chen began curdling into something uglier. It started with small annoyances. She'd leave her apartment door slightly ajar sometimes, and the smell of her cooking, while not unpleasant, was strong and unfamiliar. It would seep into the hallway, and people started complaining. It's not that I'm racist, Jennifer told me and two other neighbors in the lobby one day. I like Chinese food. I order it all the time, but that smell in the hallway is just too much. And she leaves her door open. It's a security issue. Marcus from 4C, a software engineer who worked from home, had a different complaint. She makes noise at all hours. I hear her moving furniture around at 2 in the morning, dropping things. Last week, I swear I heard drilling. Drilling? At midnight. You should file a complaint with Tom, Jennifer said. I did. He said he talked to her, but what's the point? She'll just pretend she doesn't understand. The turning point came about 5 months after I moved in. Mrs. Chun had apparently left her stove on one afternoon. The smell of gas filled the second floor hallway. Tom had to get the building maintenance guy to override her lock and turn it off. Mrs. Chun had been out shuffling around the neighborhood with her dollar store bags. An emergency building meeting was called. About 20 residents showed up in the community room, a dingy space with fluorescent lights and folding chairs. Tom stood at the front, looking more exhausted than usual. We need to talk about Mrs. Chun in 2D, he began. Today's incident could have been catastrophic. Gas leaks are no joke. If someone had lit a match in that hallway. She's a danger to all of us, someone called out. I'm not saying we need to be heartless, Tom continued, but we have to think about the safety of all residents. This isn't the first incident. There have been multiple complaints about noise, trash violations, and now this. What are our options? Marcus asked. Tom shifted uncomfortably. Legally, it's complicated. She hasn't violated her lease in a way that would allow for immediate eviction. But if we can document a pattern of behavior that threatens the safety and well-being of other residents, we might have grounds for non-renewal when her lease is up in 6 months. 6 months. Jennifer sounded appalled. She could burn the building down in 6 months. I understand the concern, but we have to follow proper procedures. The meeting devolved into a venting session. Everyone had a Mrs. Chun story. She knocked on someone's door at 7 in the morning, apparently confused about which apartment was hers. She'd been seen going through the recycling bins in the alley. She'd set off the building's fire alarm by burning something in her kitchen. The stories piled up, each one adding weight to the growing consensus that Mrs. Chan was not just a nuisance, but a genuine problem. I sat quietly, feeling increasingly uncomfortable. Everything they were saying was probably true, but there was something about the energy in the room that felt wrong. This woman, this elderly former professor who'd once been brilliant enough to teach engineering, had become the building's villain. After the meeting, I saw Kevin in the hallway. He'd apparently heard about the gas incident and had rushed over. His face was pale, his tie loosened. Is she okay? I asked. She's fine. She doesn't even understand why everyone is upset. She said she just forgot. Just forgot. Like that makes it okay. He paused, leaning against the wall. I don't know what to do anymore. My parents are in California. They're saying maybe she needs to go into a home, but she'd be so unhappy. But I can't keep doing this. I can't keep apologizing to everyone, trying to explain, trying to make her understand things she refuses to understand. It must be incredibly hard. You know what the worst part is? I think she's lonely. I think she's so desperately lonely that her brain is just shutting down. But she won't let me help her. She won't try. And now everyone hates her. He went into her apartment, and I could hear the beginning of another tense conversation before I closed my door. Things got stranger about 3 weeks before everything changed. Mrs. Chun started leaving items outside people's doors. At first, I thought maybe she was trying to make amends, offering gifts. But the items were bizarre. Old electronics, tangled cables, computer parts that looked like they'd been salvaged from machines built in the 90s, circuit board, ancient modems, I found a broken keyboard outside my door one morning. Jennifer got a box of random wires. Marcus received what looked like the internal components of an old desktop computer. Most people threw the items away immediately, assuming Mrs. Chen was confused about garbage day and was leaving her trash in the hallway. "This is getting ridiculous," Jennifer said when a group of us encountered each other at the building's trash bins, all carrying Mrs. Chen's mysterious gifts. "She's literally treating the hallway like her personal dumping ground now." "I'm calling Tom," Marcus said. "This is beyond eccentric. This is health and safety." But the strange gifts kept appearing. More electronics, more cables, pieces of technology that seemed ancient and useless. And then the noises started. Not just the occasional furniture moving or dropped objects that Marcus had complained about before. This was different. Drilling, hammering, the sound of things being assembled or disassembled. It would happen at all hours, midnight, 3 in the morning, dawn. The police were called twice in 1 week. The first time, 2 officers knocked on Mrs. Chen's door. Through my wall, I could hear the encounter. "Ma'am, we've received noise complaints. It's 2:30 in the morning. You need to keep it down." Murmured response in Chinese. "Ma'am, do you understand? No more loud noises at night. Nighttime, sleep time, quiet, more murmuring." The officers left, and within an hour, the drilling sounds resumed. The second police visit went similarly. The officers seemed frustrated, but ultimately helpless. Mrs. Chun would nod, seem to agree, and then continue whatever she was doing. A petition started circulating. Someone, I never found out who, created an official-looking document titled Petition for Early Lease Termination, Unit 2D. It listed all of Mrs. Chen's offenses, the noise violations, trash issues, the gas leak incident, and now the distribution of garbage in common areas, and persistent disturbance of peace during nighttime hours. The petition argued that Mrs. Chen's behavior had created an unlivable environment and requested that building management pursue immediate lease termination rather than waiting for the natural expiration. It needed signatures from at least 50% of the building's residents to be considered. It got those signatures in 2 days. I didn't sign it. I'm not sure why. Maybe it was remembering Kevin's face, the exhaustion and sadness there. Maybe it was thinking about this woman who'd once been brilliant, now reduced to everyone's problem. Or maybe I was just a coward who didn't want to be part of something that felt cruel, even if it was justified. Jennifer knocked on my door with the petition. "You haven't signed yet." "I'm thinking about it." "What's to think about? She's making everyone miserable. This is our home. We have a right to peace and safety." "I know. I'll think about it." Jennifer's expression hardened. "You know, not signing is basically the same as supporting her behavior. You're saying you're okay with all of this." She left, and I felt like the worst kind of fence sitter. Jennifer was right, wasn't she? Mrs. Chun was causing problems. Real problems. The gas leak could have killed people. The noise was affecting people's sleep and work. The strange electronic garbage was bizarre and unsanitary. What was I defending? An old woman's right to be a terrible neighbor? But I still didn't sign. Last Tuesday morning started like any other. I woke up, made coffee, opened my laptop to start work. I was in the middle of a crucial project in my marketing firm, a presentation for a major client that was due by end of day. The presentation was nearly finished, but I needed to do final edits, add some graphics, and run through it one more time. I opened my laptop and clicked on my browser. Nothing. No connection. I checked my Wi-Fi settings. The building's network, which we all shared and paid for through our rent, showed no signal. I restarted my laptop. Still nothing. I stepped into the hallway and immediately heard the commotion. Doors were opening. People were talking in frustrated voices. "Is your internet down?" "Mine too." "What the hell is going on?" Marcus was already on the phone with the building management. "Yes, Tom, the entire building. Nobody has internet." "What do you mean you don't know?" "Well, can you find out? Some of us have jobs." Tom arrived 20 minutes later with someone from the internet service provider. They spent an hour examining the building's network infrastructure, the cables, routers, and junction boxes that connected us all to the outside world. The verdict was grim. The main system is completely fried. The technician explained to the crowd of angry residents gathered in the lobby. "I've never seen anything like it. It's like someone took apart the entire network infrastructure and just, I don't know, scrambled it. This isn't a normal failure. This looks almost intentional." "How long to fix it?" someone demanded. The technician exchanged glances with Tom. "We're going to need to replace most of the hardware. Order parts. Rewire sections. 3 days minimum, maybe 5. The reaction was immediate and loud. People had work meetings, online classes, deadlines, streaming services they'd paid for. In 2024, 3 days without internet might as well be 3 days without electricity or water. I felt my stomach drop. My presentation was due today. I had maybe 6 hours to finish it, and now I had no internet. I could use my phone as a hotspot, but the file sizes I I was working with would eat through my data in minutes. I thought about going to a coffee shop, but the nearest one with reliable Wi-Fi was a 30-minute subway ride away. I'd lose hours of work time just commuting. I went back to my apartment, trying not to panic. I attempted to work from my phone, editing the presentation on the tiny screen, but it was nearly impossible. The graphics wouldn't load properly. The formatting kept breaking. I was on the verge of calling my boss and begging for an extension when something strange happened. My laptop, which I'd left open on my desk, suddenly showed a Wi-Fi signal. Not the building's network, that was still dead. This was something else. A network called Chen backup with full signal strength. I clicked on it, expecting to need a password. It connected immediately, and the speed was incredible. Pages loaded instantly. My cloud storage synced in seconds. I ran a speed test out of curiosity. Nearly 900 megabits per second download speed. Our building's regular network, on a good day, got maybe 50. I wasn't the only one who noticed. Within minutes, people were in the hallway again, but this time the mood was confused rather than angry. Do you see this network? Chen backup? Yeah, I'm connected to it. It's insanely fast. Is this Mrs. Chen's? Did she have a private network this whole time? I finished my presentation in record time and submitted it with an hour to spare. The file upload, which usually took 10 minutes, completed in 30 seconds. I sat back, relieved and bewildered. What was happening? That evening, I noticed Mrs. Chen's door was open. Not just ajar like she sometimes left it, but fully open. I could see into her apartment. It was empty. Not just empty of people, but empty of everything. No furniture, no belongings. Nothing except some cables running along the walls and what looked like professional network equipment mounted near the ceiling. A note was taped to the doorframe. It was written in careful English, the handwriting shaky but deliberate. Sorry for my trouble. I fix internet for building before I go. Now everyone have very good connection. System will work automatic. No need maintain. Very sorry for noise and confusion. I hope this make up for problems I caused. Thank you for patience with old woman. Mrs. Chen. I stood there reading and rereading the note. Other residents began to gather, drawn by the open door and the mystery of the network that had saved our workday. Tom arrived, looking stunned. She's gone. Lease termination papers were slipped under my office door this morning. She's paid through the end of the month, but she's already moved out. And this. He gestured at the equipment mounted in the empty apartment. I had a technician look at it. She's somehow spliced into the building's main network infrastructure and created a completely new system, a better system. He said it's worth thousands of dollars in equipment and labor, maybe tens of thousands. But how? Marcus asked. She could barely figure out trash day. Kevin appeared at the end of the hallway. He looked like he'd been crying. He walked past all of us into his grandmother's empty apartment and stood there silently. Did you know? Jennifer asked him. Not exactly. I knew she'd been a network engineer in China, one of the best in her field. She helped design telecommunications infrastructure for entire cities. But that was 30 years ago. I thought she'd forgotten all of it. I thought her mind was going. Then why did she act so confused all the time? I asked. Kevin picked up the note his grandmother had left, reading it with an expression of profound sadness. After my grandfather died, she got depressed, really depressed. When she came to America, she didn't want to be here. She wanted to stay in China, near his grave, near memories. But my parents insisted. They thought she needed family around her. He paused, folding the note carefully. She told me once that she felt invisible here, that people looked through her like she was already a ghost. So she decided if she was going to be invisible anyway, she might as well be useful. All those electronics people threw away, she was collecting them. All those noises at night, she was building. She was taking apart old equipment, salvaging components, creating something new. But why not just tell us? Tom asked, would you have believed her? An 80-year-old Chinese woman who barely speaks English, telling you she's going to upgrade your internet infrastructure? Or would you have thought she was confused, maybe dangerous, maybe trying to sabotage something? Kevin's voice was bitter. She knew how everyone saw her, so she worked in secret. She figured if she could fix the building's internet before she left, maybe people would remember her as something other than a problem. The silence that followed was heavy with shame. I thought about all the times I'd seen Mrs. Chen struggling with something simple and assumed she was helpless. All the times I'd heard complaints about her and nodded along. The petition I hadn't signed but hadn't spoken against either. Where did she go? Someone asked. Back to China. She left this morning. She said she was tired of being a burden, tired of disappointing me. She said at least in China, people remember who she used to be. Over the next few days, the full extent of what Mrs. Chen had done became clear. The building's internet wasn't just fixed, it was transformed. The network she'd created was faster, more stable, and more secure than anything we'd had before. The technicians who came to examine it were amazed. She'd used a combination of salvage parts and what must have been her own money to purchase new equipment, creating a system that would have cost the building tens of thousands of dollars to install professionally. She'd even set it up to be maintenance-free, with automatic updates and self-diagnostic capabilities. Tom received an instruction manual in the mail a few days later, written in careful English, explaining how the system worked and what to do in the unlikely event something went wrong. The petition disappeared. Nobody wanted to talk about it. Jennifer stopped making eye contact with me in the hallway. Marcus threw himself into his work, barely leaving his apartment. The building felt different, quieter in a way that had nothing to do with Mrs. Chen's absence. I tried to find her. I asked Kevin for contact information, but he said she didn't want to be reached. She wanted to go back to China and live quietly near her husband's grave. She'd said her work in America was done. She left something for you, Kevin told me one Sunday, handing me a small package. She said you were the only one who didn't sign the petition. She noticed. Inside was an old photograph. It showed a younger Mrs. Chen, maybe in her 40s, standing in front of a massive telecommunications tower. She was wearing a hard hat and holding blueprints, surrounded by a team of workers. She looked confident, capable, brilliant. On the back, she'd written in English, "This who I was. Thank you for not forgetting I was person." I keep that photograph on my desk. The building's internet is still running perfectly on the system Mrs. Chen built. Every time I connect to Chen Backup, I think about the woman we all wanted gone. The woman we saw as confused, helpless, maybe even dangerous. The woman who was actually a genius, working in secret to give something valuable to people who'd given her nothing but complaints and contempt. How could we have been so wrong? It's a question I ask myself often now. How many people do we dismiss because they don't fit our expectations? How many brilliant minds do we overlook because they come in packages we don't recognize or value? Mrs. Chen was invisible to us not because she couldn't be seen, but because we chose not to see her. The building manager installed a small plaque near the network equipment in what used to be Mrs. Chen's apartment. It reads, "Chen Network System, installed by Mrs. Chen, 2D, in gratitude for her generosity and skill." It's not enough. It will never be enough, but it's something. A small acknowledgement that we were wrong, that she mattered, that she was brilliant and kind and more patient with us than we ever deserved. I hope she's happy in China. I hope she's found peace near her husband's grave. And I hope she knows that at least one person in this building understands what she gave us. Not just internet access, but a lesson in humility. A reminder that people are never just what they appear to be on the surface. The woman everyone wanted gone left behind something none of us could have built ourselves. And in doing so, she taught us something far more valuable than network engineering. She taught us to look closer, to assume less, to remember that every person we encounter has depths we cannot see. If you enjoyed this story, like and subscribe for more tales that remind us to see the humanity in everyone around us.